welcome to another episode of the Hello 7 podcast. You are in for a treat because I am here with the magnificent celebrity ghostwriter, Pauleanna Reid.
I'm happy to be here.
Yay! I'm happy you're here. Welcome to Rodgers Ranch.
It's been quite an experience.
I know. I heard a conversation, overheard a conversation earlier, and it was just like something about horses and mosquitoes. Yeah. It looks glamorous, but there's also mosquitoes and dirt, and bugs.
There's the Instagram and there's the reality. It's nature, right? And things come with nature.
But things come with nature.
It's very, as soon as I landed, honestly, I felt at ease. It's much different than the concrete jungle of New York, right? So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why I left New York. Yeah. Because I didn't want that concrete jungle anymore. But sometimes I'm exiting my office. This is my office, y'all. So sometimes I'm leaving my office, and especially if it's late at night, and I hear things rustling in the woods, and I'm like, running.
No. Nope. I watch too much CSI, First 48. I don't want to hear no sounds, no nothing.
Well, it's never people. It's always creatures of some kind. And it's usually not like things that'll kill you, but things that are just like, I don't want it to touch me.
Right.
And I'm like, why? I don't like bugs. Why do I live in the woods?
Yeah. Oh my God. But it's very beautiful. Your property is absolutely amazing.
Thank you so much. Yes, I love it. And it's so fun to invite entrepreneurs here and just like hang out and have chill vibes and let them, it's a whole thing.
It is. It really is. She's not lying. It's a vibe. I love it.
I love it. Okay. So tell us, how did you get into this work of celebrity ghostwriting? That is such a specific, fascinating, and it's an agency as well. So I want to hear the whole journey because, first of all, people tell me all the time, I can't scale my work. I'm a special unicorn of one. No one else can do this work but me.
That's impossible. Yeah.
I know.
Well, you're going to hit your ceiling very early on. That's the thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Your revenue ceiling, your time ceiling.
You're going to be burnt out quickly.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah. So if something as, I would imagine, meticulous and specialized as celebrity ghostwriting can be scaled, truly anything can be scaled.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love it.
So the first thing I want to say is that it's important to allow your dreams to evolve.
Yes.
I actually thought that I was going to be a novelist. I thought I was going to be a songwriter. I thought I was going to be a spoken word artist, a poet. There's so many different types of writing that I tried before I landed on celebrity ghostwriting.
Yes.
I am also widely known as a journalist. I've been a freelance senior reporter at Forbes Women for 7 years. I'm in the top 1% of the global writing network. But I believe that there are also jobs and there are life assignments.
Yes.
And so even though I love my work as a journalist, it's very fulfilling. I get to amplify Black voices, voices of color. My calling is supporting world leaders, business leaders, and really helping them deliver their messages to their audience. So my former life, I was a corporate executive assistant for 10 years, and I was ghostwriting before I even realized what a ghostwriter was.
Yeah. Well, first of all, can we just back that up? Yeah. Being a corporate executive assistant for 10 years, that's so impressive. That is not a job I could hold down for very long because I'm completely unorganized and a hot mess express.
Yeah.
That tells me a lot about you that you are have a system for things.
Yeah. Right. And so I supported multiple C-level executives and presidents. And every day when I walked into my corporate environment, I looked at it as if I was going to business school. That's really where the seed was planted.
I love that.
I'm a big believer in, if you want to operate a multi-million-dollar company, you really should gain the experience to see how one is run.
Yes.
Right? You ask questions, you raise hands, you sit in meetings that you may not even have any business sitting in, you take notes. I used to tell my boss, teach me how to read the sales reports. Teach me what these acronyms mean. And they were very open to having those conversations, and they knew that I wasn't going to be a lifer.
Yes.
And I think from the jump, I was also very honest in the interview process because it's also a reverse interview. I'm trying to figure out if this is the right environment for me.
Right.
And so if you ever make me choose between your corporate environment and the shit I got going on, it'll never be you.
Right.
So as long as you know that and you know I'm here to learn for a period of time, we were on the same page, and many of the jobs that I entered, I was very strategic.
Yes.
Every single corporate job I've had, I entered at my salary cap. That's because there are so many other things that were far more important to me because I knew where I was going and I knew where I wanted my life to go.
Yes.
Yeah.
First of all, I love so much about what you're saying because I think people they don't recognize like the journey is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And there's so much to be learned even in whatever position you're in right now. If it's not the position, it's not the dream, like a career is built over time. Everybody wants everything yesterday. They want to put it in their career in a microwave and have it pop out with a multi-million-dollar company. And it don't work that way, friends. It's going to take effort.
Absolutely.
And that effort that you're talking about of showing up to your corporate job and saying, what can I learn here? How can I treat this like business school? How can I get as much out of it as possible?
Yeah.
First of all, like I know for myself, if I'm working with somebody and they are hungry and they are interested in learning and they're excited, right? And they're willing to put effort in, that I'm going to pour into that person. You just want to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so then that person, that former boss can become somebody who refers you and gets you one of your first clients, right? Or, whatever. Even if they don't, they could be somebody that teaches you things that then you can take into the next thing. So I love that. And I think that is so important not to miss, that even if you're not in the thing that you ultimately want to be in, how can you make the most of it right now? How can you turn it into something that is a great opportunity and a learning opportunity?
I also think it's really important to like shift your perspective. So I remember when my boss handed me my offer letter, it said $65,000 and he was so geeked. Like he was so excited. I'm like, okay, playa, okay. And I knew from jump, like a job may determine your salary, but you have complete control over your total income.
Hello?
Right? The number that's on the offer letter is what the company can afford. It doesn't amount to your true value.
Yes.
I always knew I was going to be $1 million woman. Like to the energy that he brought to the table was like, this is your cap. This is the number we see you as. But I always knew that like there's more in store for me. Because I had read autobiographies, books, watched documentaries. So I had known that this was going to be a long game. And the other thing that I wanted to say is that I really think that it's important to, you can't hope for a championship ring if you never go to practice.
Hello.
And so like your developmental season is absolutely critical. Like you can't skip over it. You can't dismiss it. You can't operate without intention. Your developmental season is where you really build your creative muscles. And so I took full advantage of the opportunity in the corporate arena. And before I left, I actually built my company to 6 figures from my cubicle.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that so much. And I did something, I didn't think I didn't get to 6 figures. I got close to it while working a part-time job in the early days, because that's what was necessary, right? And I think people just have this expectation that it's supposed to be easy or supposed to be fast.
Many days I cried my eyes out, right? Like you just out of frustration.
Yes.
I think
you're like, why am I not on the cover of Forbes yet? What is happening?
But
like,
also
hello?
too, workplace trauma is a real thing.
That
the
too.
Politics.
Yes.
Like you have to ask for vacation. I have to ask for vacation. But first of all, Listen, I operated very differently in my corporate environment. I made the vacation plans and then I told you I was going on vacation. Like, I just don't like the politics of it all. And honestly, eventually I just grew very frustrated. But the 2 things that were very important to me before I made my transition was, number 1, I wanted to make sure I had a proven track record of sales. That was very important to me. So like prove to myself that I could sell something.
Yes.
And then the second thing, I paid off as much debt as possible. So I went through a period where I was in mountains of debt and I had collections agencies calling me constantly. And I knew that if I was going to make a transition, that was one thing I really didn't want to worry about.
Yeah. I've definitely had that phase of my life. It is like hilarious to me sometimes. I wake up and I'm like, how did you do this?
Girl, like it's a lot. I started building my team early, and my whole entire paycheck, I would walk away with sometimes $20.
Yes.
Because my paycheck would go to the expenses of the company, the assistant I had at the time, like whatever I needed to do to scale and grow.
Yes.
But again, it's sacrifice, right?
Totally.
Like, so you do what you got to do now so that you can do what you want to do later.
Hello.
And you just keep your mind and your eyes on the prize. And sometimes it seems so out of reach, but a lot of this shit has to do with confidence. I don't think people understand that, like, you can be good at what you do, of course, but like you have to really have that belief in yourself.
Yes.
And when you come from an underdog past like I do, like I grew up with a learning difference. I failed grade 11 and 12 English. I failed many of my high school classes. I was not a scholar. I have a processing deficiency. My parents, they never believed that I could do it because there was no blueprint. I mean, we're talking like 2008, 2010 when I graduated from college, and like my parents were like, how are you going to make a living as a writer, right? There wasn't really a blueprint or an example for them to follow. But my belief is that if you want to change your parents' mind, you have to change their reality. Because my mom's whipping around in her new range, and right? Like, and so when you're able to like help them out with the bills or put a couple stacks in their bank account, like they'll get quiet real quick. And so I didn't really allow people to get to cripple me.
Yes.
You know, I mean, honestly, like, and that was a big transition in itself. But eventually when I gained the strength to kind of to step out with confidence in my capabilities, that's when things really shifted for me. Another thing I think is really important when you talk about dreams and goals, I feel like you can't have that conversation without talking about mental health. I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. I'm a high-functioning CEO with crippling depression and anxiety.
Wow.
And I have managed my mental illness for over 20 years. And I mean, I fight voices inside my head that most people will never understand. Every single day that I'm here, Rachel, is because I made an active decision to be here.
Yes.
Like, that is really what I want people to understand, that like, fuck what you see on the internet. Every single person is fighting their own private battles behind closed doors.
Absolutely.
Right? And so I think that everyone's recovery process looks different, right? And so the question that I get asked a lot is, how are you able to manage teams, you know, still show up while you're managing a mental illness, because it is very crippling. And honestly, like, the only way I know how to climb out of any hole that I'm in is gradually, right? One foot in front of the other.
Yes.
And you just have to really know inside your heart that God has more plans for our life that really don't include crying at night or believing that we're broken. And that shit, like, you know, I know a lot of conversations really focus on scaling and growth and revenue, but you and I both know those moments when you are having those tough conversations with yourself.
Yes.
You feel me? You're having those tough conversations with yourself and you're like, what the fuck? Like, can I actually do this? You know what I mean? Like, I have so many people depending on me. My team got to pay their bills.
Yep.
You feel me? Like, you know, I have
mom,
the world.
You're paying her range.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I have the world.
Mom's got to keep riding in the range.
Exactly.
She done got used to the range now. Can't put her back in a Honda.
Exactly. But like, you know, you're a public figure. The world is also watching. And so that you're so many things to so many people. And you have those moments where you're like, all right, you know, I'll cry for 5 minutes, but then I got to be gangsta, you know, but I do allow myself to cry.
Yes.
But then, you know, once I get it out my system, it's time to go, baby. Like, I'm ready to like pick up and go again. But I want founders and CEOs to know that it's okay to feel.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, business is personal. And it's okay. It's okay to take a second to breathe.
It's part of the journey. I had a good cry in the car yesterday, y'all.
Okay.
On the way to the hairstylist. Why? Because I overscheduled myself as per usual. And that's what I always do.
Yeah.
And so then, you know, it's like you have those moments where you feel like a failure, or you feel like, why do I have to keep learning this lesson the hard way again and again and again? Like, this is my journey, right? So I love that you're talking about all of this, because, you know, there's so many ways in which we count ourselves out, or we think like, oh, I can't do these other things, or I can't handle it.
Yeah.
Or it looks so easy for them. It looks so pretty on Instagram, right? Like, why is it so hard for me? Oh, no, it's hard for them too. They're just not showing you that part.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they're just not talking about it. And that's why we're talking about it, right? And I love that you're sharing so much about your journey, because then that helps people know, like, oh, okay, I can do it. Oh, this is normal. Absolutely. Right? It is normal to experience this kind of anxiety, or to have a learning difference and still be able to have a writing agency.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
which is so crazy when I think about it, to be honest, because listen, like, I failed all of my high school classes, but if you really look at CEOs and founders across the board, a lot of them who are really making bank and are doing exceptionally well, they didn't graduate from college. They don't necessarily have a degree. They're very street smart.
Yeah.
And if you want something badly enough, you will teach yourself.
Yes.
I was bullied and tormented in school.
Wow.
And when I was hanging out by myself in the library, the girls' washroom, the cafeteria, I would doodle in my notebook, and I would write about what life looked like outside of the four walls of this hellhole.
Yes.
And that's where I got my practice. You feel me?
Yes.
Like, perhaps you don't adhere to, or perhaps the traditional school system failed you, like it failed me, right? I fell through the cracks. But if I didn't fight for what I wanted, I would have been a statistic.
Yes.
And so you have to find that place inside your heart where nothing is impossible.
Yes.
You feel me? Like, I could have
agree.
literally been, honestly, who knows? But this was my only option. It was option A, and it was my only option, and I figured it the hell out.
Yes. Listen, I feel you on that completely. That's exactly where I was too, where it's just like being poor is not an option for me.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to figure this out because I'm going to figure money out because I don't want to be poor anymore and I don't want my parents to be poor.
Yeah.
So that I have to fix, right? Whatever it is, it's like whatever those challenges are, I can overcome them. And to me, it was just like, I'm going to be successful and I'm not going to stop until I find a way, period.
Yeah, exactly.
End of story.
That's it.
And you just have to have some level of tenacity and determination and you just have to want it.
Yeah.
You know, and when people come to me with an entitled energy of like, well, I tried this thing and it didn't work. And it's like, okay, well, try it again for 2 more years.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, try some more.
Exactly.
Put some more effort in. You are not entitled.
Don't even come talk to me under 2 years. Like we shouldn't even be having this conversation.
I don't even hear your story yet. Okay?
Exactly.
And the thing is that sometimes I think people are looking for sympathy. Like, well, I tried it and it's not working and this launch failed. And it's like, yeah.
Of course it did. Yeah.
That's the journey. That is the journey, my friend. Collect some more failures, right? Like that's what we're doing here. We're collecting failures, and on the other side of that is success.
But you learn so much in the failure. That's
you
the thing.
learn so much.
You're able to really tighten up your processes and your systems.
Yes.
You know, you're able to reevaluate how you move in business from your failures. So you want to fail fast and you want to move on.
And you want to fail as like exactly make moves so that you can find out, does it work, does it not work?
Yeah.
And then from that you have data and you can make different decisions.
Yeah.
And I have so many friends and peers who have similar sized businesses, maybe a little smaller, maybe a little bigger. And I can see for some of them it happened faster than it happened for me.
Yeah.
But I can tell the difference. Like I know how to manage a team and lead a team now because I've been trying it and failing at it so many times for 12 years. Now I have it figured out and now I know what I'm doing, right? Like there's an entrepreneurial maturity that comes from being on the journey for some series of years. And don't eschew that. Don't think that that's a bad thing. Like that's a beautiful thing. It's an exciting thing because that experience is so valuable. Like nothing replaces experience.
Absolutely.
You know, experience is where like so much of that confidence can come from.
Yeah.
So trying things as fast as possible, having those failures, then overcoming it, then you know, like, oh, if this don't work, I'll figure something else out.
Yeah.
I ain't worried. I got this.
Exactly. When you're an entrepreneur, I feel like you are an idea generator.
Yes.
And so if something doesn't work, you should be able to apply those skills to something else, right?
Exactly.
And so it's just about trial and error and, like you said, experience.
Yes. So tell us, like, so now you're at your corporate job, you're working on your stuff on the side. How did you come upon celebrity ghostwriting? Because you were a journalist at one point. Like, tell us how did you get there? How did you choose that?
Okay, so
from being a spoken word poet.
Okay, so yes, it's important to allow your dreams to evolve. So I tried my hands at many different things, and I came across an article in 2014 about a ghostwriter. That was my first exposure to ghostwriting.
First of all, can we just talk about seeds? I think it's so important. I watched some show on Netflix. It's not even important, but it was a woman entrepreneur, and she was talking about how she had a team of 90 employees.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna have 90 employees.
I'm telling you.
You
have to stay curious.
This is why that visibility is so key. This is why this conversation is important, because people just need to see it. And as soon as they see it, they're like, oh, that's what I need to do.
This conversation is important to me because I want more Black and brown women to know that ghostwriting is a viable career.
Yes.
Oftentimes when students sign up for communications, they're thinking public relations or marketing. They're not thinking speechwriting. They're not thinking ghostwriting. I am a content ninja. I am a secret weapon on many high-profile teams.
Yes.
And I want people to know that we need more color and more flavor in this lane.
Let me tell you something. As somebody who's written a book, and the only editors available to me at these big publishing houses are white people, right? And so, but they don't understand, like I was saying earlier, one of the lines in my book was about something being a whole blood clot lot, right? They were like, what is this? You have to edit it. I'm like, I'm not editing it. Okay, are you kidding me? No, my people know, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
And if they don't know, like the people who don't know, they should look it up.
Right.
And they should find out. But I have to speak like me. I don't talk in the Queen's English in my regular life, so why would I do it in my book, right?
Exactly.
And so, yes, having more people of color and Black women especially to help us, to edit
Black
us.
leaders.
Yes, exactly. Yes. It's very important.
Very important. So I'm in my cubicle. I decide to quit. And as I'm transitioning, so simultaneously, one of the things that were really important to me when I chose my corporate job was to have unlimited PTO.
Yes.
Right? So unlimited PTO just means like as long as you get your manager's approval, you can do whatever you need to do.
Yes.
So during my PTO, I would fly to New York, and literally I'm in corporate making $65K, but all of my money is going elsewhere, right? So I'm scraping my pennies together. I'm flying to New York and I'm scheduling meetings from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. I'm literally, sometimes I couldn't even afford to stay at a hotel, so I'm bumming it and sleeping at the airport floor.
Wow.
I'm sleeping on couches. I'm hustling because I know that before I leave corporate, I need to build networks in all the major cities in the States.
Wow.
The other thing I want people to understand is that you will not go further than you think. Location is very important. So I'm born and raised in Toronto, Canada. And in Canada, you hit your ceiling very, very early. If you look at Tory Lanez, Drake, The Weeknd, Shania Twain, Bieber, Shawn Mendes, you look at the trend, many people create, they establish themselves in Toronto, but then they move on.
Yes.
Because they know that you have to spread your wings elsewhere and really to hit your tipping point.
Yes.
So I knew that very, very early on. I built pockets of networks in LA, New York, DC, Atlanta. And that gave me a lot of leverage because I had planted seeds.
Yes.
I nurtured.
Wait, I want to pause you there for a second. Because I just want to talk about, like, I think about sometimes what people say to me when I say, oh, I'm having this event.
Yeah.
Like, buy a ticket and come. And they're like, well, I can't buy a flight and book a hotel.
You figure
and
it
like,
out.
Yes.
If
And
you,
it's but the thing is I feel like it takes overcoming that fear and really believing in yourself to be like, I'm gonna take this risk of
put
like
pride
booking.
aside.
Yes, because you're spending money on a flight, right? You're finding a way to get yourself into a city where you don't have a home,
right?
Right? You don't have even a place to stay.
You may not even know anybody, so you don't have a couch, maybe.
Exactly, but you're like, no, I'm going to spend this money and I'm going to spend this time, and I believe in myself enough to get on this plane.
Yeah.
I think that is a very bold act, and I just want to commend you for that. And I think that it's important to be willing to take those kinds of risks, be willing to get on a plane, to go meet somebody, right? Like sometimes they're like, well, am I gonna 10x my return?
Oh my God.
Like, am I gonna get a 10x return on investment like within 24 hours? It's like, no,
that's
baby,
not
you're not. Okay, it maybe in a year or 2 or 3, right?
Or 10.
But you might meet somebody that creates some opportunity for you later, and you got to be willing to take those risks. And sometimes you don't see the whole staircase; you see the first step, and you got to take it. Right? Like that's the difference of the people who make it and have success, and the people who don't are the people who are too afraid to take that step without seeing all the other steps. None of us ever see all the other steps.
Exactly.
We're just doing it and saying, let's see where it takes us.
Yeah, and you have to understand that where you're at today isn't where you have to stay.
Yes.
Right? When I was sleeping, so I slept on LaGuardia's floor, and I took a picture, and I said, I know it's not going to be like this forever.
Yeah,
you feel me? Like the dusty
You're like,
ass
let
floor.
me document this moment, because I know.
Like,
when I'm driving around in my Rari,
trust me. Like,
I'm gonna need this pic.
Exactly. So I built these pockets of networks. I nurtured. I added sunlight. I watered these relationships, and really, that's how things began. I also think that one thing that helped me was I was able to articulate my value.
Yes.
When you're talking to so many people and you're having these conversations, baby, you got to get to the point. Don't waste their time.
Listen, you don't have please tell everybody that. Say it again. Get to the point, my friend. Send me a 2-sentence email.
God.
I will absolutely read it. If it is 2 essays long, I'm never going to get to it.
But you know, in New York, people don't listen. They don't have time. They're on their way to the next thing. So
everybody,
exactly.
Okay, listen. Stand in front of them for 2 seconds. You gonna see what happens.
But they're not even saying hello. It's what do you do? Like, there's no hello. There's no greeting. Like. So I was in the lobby.
Get to the point, friend. Right? Like,
listen.
A New York minute is real. It's really 4 seconds is what you have.
I was in the lobby of a building. I was in the lobby of a building with my friend Sean, and a gentleman walked into the building, a Caucasian gentleman, and Sean was like, "Oh, I want you to meet Jason." So Jason asks, "What do you do?" I straight face. I'm like, okay, shit. All right, you bout it. So I then articulated my value. And again, I think you also have to, so I love chess. So that's my analogy for life and business.
Yes.
So when you are networking, I think it's really important to read the room, understand the key player, and then identify what problem you want to solve for them. I could have led with multiple different hats because I have multiple skills, but I knew, okay.
Listen. Okay, let's just pause right there for a second. Because this is what people do. What do you do? Well, I do a little of this, and then I do that, and then sometimes I do this, and I'm thinking about getting into that, and it's like, you've lost me.
Absolutely.
I'm gone.
Yes.
Because now I don't know where to place you. If you say, here's what I do, and here's what I do it for, then I'm like, oh, you need to meet my friend over here. Right? Immediately, there's a connection, and there's an opportunity created. But if you can't get your thoughts together, and you can't pick one thing, listen, that's a problem, right? You're missing out on so much connection and an opportunity when you can't articulate, here's how I can add value.
But you shouldn't wait. Here's the thing. Are you prepared to receive the very thing that you prayed for? You should not wait until I should not wait until I get in front of Rachel to then practice umming and ahhing, and I should be practicing in my bathroom. I should be practicing when I'm doing my chores around the house, when I'm whipping in my...
Use this moment.
Absolutely. So when I got...
Ask million-dollar questions, right?
When I got in front of him, I knew who I was talking to. I knew what I was saying. And so right then and there, like you just said, he was like, shit, I need someone like you. And I closed my first $20,000 contract.
I love it.
Right? In literally less than 30 seconds.
Listen, I say it all the time. Making money is actually not necessarily hard. What makes it hard is all the thoughts in our head about how possible it is or isn't.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it hard. Like I was just telling them I got 500 new clients a week ago with 4 emails, right? Like it was very easy. Right? But I could also get in my head about what should the email say? I don't know. Should I send them? What are they going to think? And then I can never send those emails and never get those clients, right? So like, stop making it hard on yourself. Believe. That's such a big part of it, is just believing. Yeah.
And stepping up to the plate. And, you know, a lot of these things, you know, sometimes you're going to get tested along the way. And so that was a test and I passed. And honestly,
$20,000 says you passed.
And at the time, that was really big money for me.
That's big money. That's like, what is that, a third of your salary at the time?
Yes, at the time it was really big money. So I kind of bottled up this formula to articulating my value. And again, sending emails, meeting for coffee, dinners, planting those seeds. And eventually I had to hire a team to take on the expanded vision, right?
Wow.
And so...
Wait, but you weren't just on Instagram posting about what you have for lunch every day?
No.
Like that didn't lead to the $20,000
I
clients?
have real life relationships.
Yes.
I don't have the fake social media relationships. If you know me from social media, we're not real friends.
Yeah, like you don't know me.
Absolutely.
Right.
Like real friends to me requires a level of intimacy.
Yes.
Right? And so I have real life relationships, and I feel like when you exchange synergy and energy and chemistry with someone, there's an established trust there.
Yes.
And so they're willing to, like, I don't actually market myself. A lot of my business comes from referrals. It comes from incredible SEO. Like if you Google ghostwriting agency, I come up.
Yes.
If you Google black ghostwriter, I come up, right? So my SEO is phenomenal. And then I double down on my storytelling abilities, because I feel like that's where you gain trust and influence from your community.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. So good. Because I feel like everybody's just like, I just need to fiddle around on social media every day. And I'm like, is that the fastest path to your first few clients?
Actually not.
Absolutely not. It takes up so much time and energy.
Yeah.
It's going to take you a very long time to build an audience there. It requires a ton of consistency. And it's like, yes, you can do that. I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad marketing strategy, but if you're looking for the path to cash the quickest, that ain't it.
Yeah.
Just have conversations. Actually talk to people. Actually connect with
Start
people
in
who
your phone.
need you. Yes.
Start with the contacts in your phone if you don't know where to look. I think that people don't spend enough time building in public. I think that's the other thing too, because we want to, you know, hit the world with cyber glitter. We want everything to be
cyber glitter.
We want everything to be perfect on the internet. I'm not going to publish my website until it's perfect. Like for me, I've always started broke, started scrappy, started ugly, right?
Yes.
And
Launch
then
it ugly.
Right. And I've evolved, like, and my tribe, my audience, they appreciate that. Playing in traffic, Sally Krawcheck from Elvis says that all the time.
Yes.
It's important to play in traffic, and how I interpret that is building in public. And when you build in public, people grow an appreciation for what you've built.
Yes.
They want to rally. What is the point of building a community if you're not going to take them along for the ride, if you're not going to get them involved?
If you're not going to ask for help?
Absolutely. And so when you build in public, you bridge that language gap, and they're able to really like ride for you in a really, you know, authentic way.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, my first $1 million month was because my community rallied around me and helped me make it happen.
You get it. You get the code. Like, I don't understand. Yeah, you have to, it's a family affair.
It's a family affair. And even when you have an audience online, it's a relationship. And what are you doing to foster that relationship? Because people are like, well, I launched and it was crickets. Okay, well, where were you? Are you crickets every day?
Yeah.
Do you talk to them? Do you connect with them? Do you add value? If you don't, then they're going elsewhere where they're getting value, right? They're not just giving you their time for no reason. Exactly. They're going to keep scrolling. So those relationships, I think, are so critical, and you should always treat it like a relationship and real people, instead of just, I have 10,000 followers, or I have this many followers, or what. I don't even like the phrase followers. Right? It's like, no, we're in community together. Like we're a community of peers in one way or another. Right? And let's here's what I'm doing and here's how it might help you. And I just want to share my story and it inspires somebody.
A blessing to them.
Exactly.
And then you start dialogue in the comments and dialogue in the DMs. And then a lot of my tribe, we feel like we very much know each other because over the years they've messaged me so much that I recognize Alicia. Yes. I recognize Nicole. Yes. You know what I mean? And sometimes Nicole will be like, hey, can I job shadow you? I saw that you're going to Arizona. Yeah, come on. Like, open up opportunities and open up conversation with your audience. I think that's really important. And also understanding that storytelling, great storytellers are intentional. It doesn't happen by accident. Yes. Storytelling is also interactive, right? So if you are a great storyteller online, people will engage and that will have a ripple effect in how they talk to you. Your name will come up in rooms and conversations that you haven't even set foot in.
Yes, because storytelling is a form of, it's like it's our form of communication as humans, right? Yeah. Like this is what we do. We share stories.
Yeah.
I think if you can share your story and tell your client stories or tell a story that inspires someone or that helps someone. Like the best Twitter threads are like, wait, where is this going? And then you're like, scroll forever, right? Because you're like, I gotta see how this ends.
Yeah.
Well, it has no relevance to your life, but you're entertained and you've just stories are how we communicate. It draws us in. And I think that is, people are so busy just wanting to put everything on social media or wanting to stunt.
Or drop a Drake caption. It's like, we don't need any more lyrics. Like, we don't care.
A Drake caption.
We don't need any more lyrics. I think it's so silly. That was such a wasted opportunity where you could have opened up
and
to your audience and connected. And so I think when people think of your brand, when people think of your business, what is the narrative that you're telling, right? If we think of Colin Kaepernick, we think of, to stand up for something means sacrificing everything.
Yes.
If we think of Serena, we think of the balls in your court.
Yes.
Right? Stories can either ignite wars or create peace.
Yep.
Right? If we look at Demi Lovato and her road to sobriety, we look at Paris Hilton and her fight to change bills around the troubled teen industry. Or we look at the chaos that ignited this year when Kim Kardashian was like, women are lazy, get up and work. Like, you know what I mean? Or we saw Daniel Caesar back in 2020. He said, Black people are too sensitive. How you tell your story, how you framework your story, how you tell your speech, how you write your book, how you produce your captions, your content, like it has to be with intention. And so my job as a ghostwriter, my job is not just to put pen to paper. My job as a ghostwriter, my team's job is to be your confidant, to be your human diary, to be your architect, to be a structural thinker, to help you read the room, navigate cultural, societal, generational sensitivities, right? It's so much more than we're just ghostwriting this copy for you. We are actually helping you build community. We're helping you not just monetize your genius, but we're creating a safe space so that you can exercise boundless creativity. We're creating a safe space where you can really share your message with a whole heart and 10 toes down.
Yes.
And so that's the biggest difference between copywriters and ghostwriters. We are narrative therapists. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So there's a lot that goes into it. And it's literally like the greatest calling on my life.
Yes. And you're helping build brands, right? Because brand is really just a story, right?
It is.
What is the story that you're telling and retelling all the time, whether it's with how you look, right? Like all the different pieces of your brand, right?
Yeah.
And the story is a big part of it. So I agree. And it needs to be intentional. If you were to give share a tip or two about how to tell a good story, because I think some people think like, well, I'm just not good at telling stories, right? Or I don't have stories to tell, which is never true.
Yeah.
What would be your tips to people for connecting better on social media or telling better stories?
That's a really great question. I personally think everything's a story. Like I could tell you a story about how I got ready this morning.
Yes.
I can share a story about these long ass braids, girl. Like I can tell you a story about, I can literally share a story. So like, don't overthink it.
Yes.
The simplest thing in your life could be relatable to someone else.
Yes.
I think that a lot of people of influence are now recognizing their power, their unique power. The one thing that happened in 2020, and it's having a ripple effect, is the fact that people now don't know who to turn to and where to find good information. So we now have a very great opportunity for all of us to be a part of this collective awakening, right, across societal systems and industries. So people want to hear from you because they don't know where to turn. So I think that you need to really check yourself and really understand that the one thing I heard that was so instrumental to me is, Van Jones says that in order to change policy in business, you have to change minds and hearts. It really doesn't take a lot to resonate with someone. Start from your personal lived experience.
Right.
Speak to what you know. When we talk to clients, when we vet them, we always consider what is their proximity to the topic? Because I don't believe everyone should talk on everything.
I agree.
Right.
Listen,
we've seen a lot of chaotic tweets.
We've seen it. And then people, I feel like sometimes there's pressure to comment on every public thing. I don't do that because some things are not my areas of expertise.
Absolutely.
I don't have anything brilliant to share.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just no. I'm going to stay in my lane and talk about what I need to talk about, right?
Yeah.
There are things that absolutely I need to address, but not everything needs to be addressed. You're not an expert on everything, and sometimes it's a really good choice to be silent.
Yeah, and exactly.
Just stop talking.
You don't
amplify those who are experts in those situations.
Share their content. You don't want to add to noise. You want to bring a new, fresh perspective to the conversation.
Exactly.
And I think that people are just not willing to have those tough conversations with themselves. When we're vetting clients, we like to whiteboard and we like to think about and challenge them to think about, what are you standing on? What are your morals, your values, your belief system? What are you fighting for?
Yes.
What conversations do you want to contribute to? Check yourself and really assess your IQ, your EQ, and your AQ, right? So managing what you know, managing your emotions and feelings, and managing your ability to adapt. And, sometimes when you attain new information about a topic, maybe you have to shift your perspective.
You got to change your mind.
Be flexible.
One small example of this is I used to hate memberships, and I would be don't start a membership. Membership is the worst business model ever. Never start a membership. This is what I used to always say because, people just wanted to do it because it's $29 a month, and they're oh, it's cheap, so I don't have to really sell.
Right.
Oh, no, you have to sell.
Yeah.
You got to sell if it's 50 cents, right? It don't matter.
Yeah.
So I'm stop doing that and actually charge more, right? But then, of course, what happened? I launched a membership. Yeah.
Right? Because you probably acquired new information about it. Yeah.
The pandemic happened and my high-end services were not being purchased. And so then I went to my audience and said, what is it that you need from me?
Yeah.
And the answer wasn't a membership, but all the information that came back was clearly the right thing to do would be to create a membership. And that's what I did. And
you were flexible.
It exponentially grew my business.
You adapted. Yeah.
Yes. And it's okay to change your mind in public. You don't have to dig in your heels when you don't really believe that anymore. It's authenticity, right? We evolve, we change as people. You can do that publicly. It's okay.
Yeah. You got it.
People gonna hate on you no matter what you do. Yeah. Right? So you might as well just be honestly, who you are and be happy.
They'll fall off. They'll drop off. They weren't your clients anyways. Move on. That's it.
Exactly. Let them go.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you specifically about scaling, right? Scaling your writing agency.
Yeah.
Tell me about, I imagine you did it very intentionally. You obviously didn't seem to wait. And there are studies that support that a lot of women, especially women of color, but women in general as entrepreneurs, that we are scared to hire, that we have this sort of philosophy that we need to do everything.
Definitely not. Not over here.
Not over here either. Listen.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
Okay? Never ever. But that's what so many people, so many of my clients, so many of people in my audience who write to me talk about how afraid they are to hire and how they feel they need to do everything and how only I can do it this way. No one else can do it.
That's a complex, and that's the ego that needs to be checked.
Yes. Yeah. I agree. It is ego. Yeah. And it's I know you a special unicorn, and you are. You are a special unicorn. Yeah. I promise you. But you're not so special that nobody else can do what you do. Because if that was the case, you would have zero competition. There would be nobody else doing this work. But something you work with A-list celebrity clients, right? How did you overcome that fear of assigning it to somebody else on your team?
So first of all, I think that real leaders build other leaders.
Absolutely.
Right? So I like to take the time to build my team. And a mentor once told me, Pauleanna, you don't want employees, you want mission partners.
Yes.
So that was the first thing that was really important to me, is understanding, number one, what motivates everyone individually, right? And play to their strengths. And number two, I feel if you don't have a diverse team, because when people call writer's block, we have to be ready for anything.
Yes.
And so I need to have a diverse team so that we don't have any blind spots.
Yeah.
And so we have diversity across geography, language, religion, experience, background, etc. And so I need clients to know that they're going to get white glove service regardless of who's on their projects. But also in our contracts, it does say, outside of me, there are multiple people touching your project.
Yes.
Right? So whether we're ghostwriting a book, a speech, an article, a text, a presentation, I have a designated research team. I have transcribers. I have consultant. There are multiple people touching, but I am I'm one of a few people that are point people for the
Yes.
client.
Yes.
And so you kind of have to rock with my lead or we can't really work with you. That's
Yes.
really how it goes. Like, you're not in charge here. You hired us because we have expertise.
Yes.
And it's really important that you really trust that we have your back. And we want you to feel confident and comfortable, of course, but you really have to trust that we have a special process in order to cross the finish line.
Yes. And I have to say, I have a personal policy that I may have shared this before, but
Yeah.
that when I hire someone,
Yeah.
I do it their way and I actually listen to them at least once,
Yeah.
right? Like, at least do
Yeah.
it their way. If you trusted them enough to give them your money, right? Then trust them enough to let them do it, since they have a far more experience than
Yeah.
you. Because I think so often we hire experts and then we're like, no, I don't want to do it that way. It's this way. And it's like, is it?
It's a red flag.
Is it that way? Or
Yeah.
are you hard-headed and in your ego and not allowing the people who are the experts be the experts and you be the expert at what you are the expert at, right? Like, nobody's the expert on everything,
Yeah.
you know? And I think some people are just so hard-headed for some reason. And they just,
Very much so.
They just don't listen to the expertise that they hire. I'm like, I used to run into this as a lawyer. I've definitely run into it as a business coach, and I have definitely fired clients because I'm like, you don't listen. You wanted to do it the hard way, so do it the hard way without. I'm not the hard way.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
can go do it on the hard way by yourself.
I love that you said fired clients, because I want to free people who watch this episode of feeling that they have to put up with bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
You can fire clients. You should be identifying red flags very, very early. And if
Yes.
a client does not trust you, if the scope of work always change, like, identify what red flags are to you.
Yes.
Right? And it's okay to walk away. And sometimes I know when you're in a place of desperation, you need that money. You have to cover payroll expenses. But I promise you, when you walk away or fire a client, you create space, you create room for something bigger and better.
And so much better. Yes.
Let it happen. Let
It's
it flow.
It's a $1 million boundary to be like, here's your money back. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Please go
Yeah.
away. Please never call
Exactly.
me. Lose my number.
Yeah.
It's so true. It's like, please,
Yeah.
you cannot pay me enough to stress me out in this way
Yeah.
and make me miserable and make me hate I love my job.
Same.
So if I'm showing up to work and I'm very unhappy
Yeah.
because working with you is a nightmare, then that nightmare got to go.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Next. Thank you. Next.
Exactly. And something bigger and better is always around the corner. So
Absolutely.
just make room on your plate for it.
So true. And I love what you said about scaling a team and really pouring into them.
Yeah.
I think that comes with entrepreneurial maturity that we talked about earlier, right? Like, not thinking that I just told this person once and they're not doing it perfectly. Okay, did you learn it perfectly? But with one person telling you one time? Or does it require constant communication, over communication, making mistakes, learning from those mistakes, and then now you know how to do it the right way, right? Like, it takes time. We think people should just jump when we say jump and just instantly become experts, and then we're like, well, let's fire them because they're not perfect. Then I'll find somebody else imperfect and then fire them
from the
too.
top down. It says something about you as a leader if there's pure chaos in your business. Like,
Correct.
You know what I mean? So, like, maybe the employee is not and I have, in my group chats and among friends, people complain, my coordinator's not doing. What are you doing? Like, what structure and infrastructure do you have? The systems do you have in place so that because sometimes as CEOs, sometimes you're moving so fast, you may send a cryptic email or text message that misses words, misses the point.
They don't understand.
Take a self-assessment. Yeah.
And if people are afraid to tell you the truth in your business, to me, I think that's very important. Exactly. Like, I want people to be able to say, I don't think we should do that, and here's why. I love that idea, but I think it's a no, and here's why.
Push back.
Yes, I want people to push back.
And feel good to do that. Don't feel scared. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think if you are walking around in a way where people are scared, then you have to ask yourself, well, how am I creating an environment where people are scared to tell me the truth?
Exactly.
And my leaders, if they complain about their team members, I'm like, okay, well, what you doing? Right? Like, how are you solving this problem?
Right.
Because this is your problem. It's for you to solve,
right.
And I have to ask myself that as well. Like, what am I doing that's allowing this leader to not lead their team the way that I expect them to, So always look within. You got to really drop the ego, period. I think that's one of the keys to success is dropping the ego. And that's so much of what I heard you say. I love it so much. So any parting words that you want to leave people with?
Parting words that I want to leave people with, I think that you should. I have so much to say.
And you've said so much already.
I know.
You've dropped a lot of gems.
So yeah, you know what? I just want people to reconsider and just really think about the lane they're in.
Yeah.
I was able to thrive in a very unique space because I was able to research and really foreshadow what was coming as a journalist, right?
Yes.
So I knew that most journalists don't necessarily make their money in journalism. They make it doing all the other things, the side hustles, all the things outside of journalism.
Yes.
And so that was a red flag for me, right? I think the other thing was like paying attention to the clues that success leaves behind.
Yes.
Right? Had I not looked at that article, had I not put a pin in it and told myself, let me circle back to this because there could be something here, I wouldn't have the agency that I have today.
Yes.
So I think just paying attention, and I think being able to identify opportunities around you is a skill that is an absolute must-have.
Yes.
Because a lot of times when you don't feel like you're successful, you don't feel like things are happening for you, it's because you missed your moment, because you missed the opportunity. It doesn't mean it didn't exist.
Yes.
You just weren't paying attention.
Yes. And so then just start paying attention now so you don't miss the next one.
Yeah.
Because there will be more. And you can even manufacture more of those
Exactly.
moments like you were saying, right? Like getting on a plane and going to connect and meet people.
Exactly.
I love it. So tell people, where can they find you and connect with you?
Girl, I'm all over Google. So you can find
that SEO is popping.
Exactly,
okay?
exactly. And I have a very unique name, so I'm on the first 10 pages. But you can find me at thewritersblock.com and Pauleannareid.com.
Love it. I love it. And that's Pauleanna. Why can't I spell? Pauleanna.
Yes.
Reid.
Thank you.
.com.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Because I want to make sure people get it right.
Thank you. This is so fun.
Yes. Thank you so much for
You're
coming.
very welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us for the Hello 7 podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe to our channel, comment below, and share this episode with your friends.